that we all have learned that the less you eat, the less calories you eat, the smaller your body. And it seems so simple. And it just does not apply to every single human being. We are all created differently. We are all in different size bodies. Our, activity level is different from each other.
Awe Genge, this is Mental Mythos, hosted by Asagot Toto. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Mental Mythos. I'm your host, Asagot Toto. And before we dive into today's incredible conversation, I have a small favor to ask. If you enjoy what you hear today, please take a moment to rate and review our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Your feedback not only helps us improve, but also helps others discover the valuable insights we share every week. And if you find today's episode particularly inspiring or insightful, don't forget to share it with your friends, family, or anyone you think could benefit from it. Thank you for your support. It truly means the world to us. Now, let's get back into our conversation.
I just want to say thank you so much for being here and being able to do this. And through your message, I realized that something that people really find difficult to have is that self love. And through our conversation, hopefully the audience and also me and you will have different perspective. Hopefully, we learn things from each other in terms of the conversation of today. So, with those words, I would like to say thank you so much. And also, another thing that I just want to touch on is the conversation that I've been slowly but surely trying to get in, which is in terms of diets and how nutrition and mental health interlink in a way. Because while I was preparing for this initial interview, I was listening to Dr. Huberman, the Huberman Lab podcast, whereas he is into the thing of nutrition and mental health. So hopefully through our conversation, the audience will learn something. And yeah, thank you so much for being here.
You're so welcome. Yeah.
Definitely you didn't, in a way, at first you didn't have that love in terms of the field of health in general. What made you want to be part of the field in terms when it comes to health?
Well, that is a great question. I mean, part of it was selfish. Part of it was for myself to kind of keep an eye on my body and to make sure I was always moving in some way. But there was also something that I feel like I was kind of born with, was my gift of wanting to help people. And I just made a decision, over 20 years ago, that this was something I wanted to do for both of those reasons.
Mm, mm, mm. And definitely, I think in general the message around here is self-love and keeping that mental well-being intact in terms of taking care of yourself, being that person that takes care of themselves in a way. So your book, the donut diaries, and I would like to get into that in terms of how did you at what point did you realize that you had no self-love towards yourself?
I think I always knew that because I was just always feeling so betrayed by my body and wondering, why can't I just be like everyone else? And but when I started kind of this healing journey and I realized there was a name for it, I would say I was around 45. And so, from 11 years old to always being on a diet of some kind, I just realized that, oh, that's what it was. I didn't love myself. It really had nothing to do with the size of my body or the fact that I was in a relationship or single or whatever the case was that caused me to self-doubt myself, that's what it was. And so when that light went off and I was like, "Oh, I have to love me first." I think that was such a powerful moment for me.
And self-love is very, I would say, very crucial, and and it's quite difficult where you at a space where that you realize that you are facing mental health issues and you have no one else to be there. And one thing that I realize about mental health is the fact that as much as you have, I would say, family members, friends. At some point, you just don't just need them. You need them to listen. But when you are come across someone that has the same feeling that you have, the same feelings that you have, you really realize that there's someone out there that really cares about me. They have the same story as me. And something that I, in myself, that struggle with when it came to self love, it was, I don't want to lie to you, it was quite difficult when it comes to self love because I didn't know what was self love, what initially that I was required to do in terms of self love. And growing up in a community whereas we don't take care of our mental well being per se, and not knowing that you should love yourself. The thing that I feel like in a way my community that I grew up with, it had this detachment attachment issue, whereas I in myself felt victim of allowing someone to love me without me loving myself. And it has been a rocky road, and I'm still working on it in a way, because in a way um, I just was heartbroken. My heart was broken in terms of that thing, and at some point in my life, I realized that first I just need to heal in a way properly in terms of that. So, to you, in terms of the conversation of healing and self love, is the actual meaning of healing to you? What does it mean?
Well, I appreciate you sharing because I think it's so important to understand that we all have to find our way to self-love. But healing means for me that you just get so sick and tired of feeling empty or feeling that there's no hope or feeling that why can't I just be happy? All those questions were things that swirled around in my head all the time. And like, I love your point. It's like you put all this expectations into other people without checking in with yourself first. And I don't think that we as human beings are taught. It's like, hey, you got to self soothe. You got to be able to bring yourself up and have we'll use the word self-love again, but self-love for yourself before you can even consider loving another human being.
Mm,
And I just wish that we were taught that more as we were growing up as little boys and girls, because I don't know how you grew up, but I grew up very feeling abandoned. I felt like I had only my mom to depend on.
mm,
And she didn't teach me those skills. Like, depend on yourself, think for yourself, love yourself before anything else. I had to learn that much later in life.
That's quite difficult to say, because I feel like we, in terms of our stories, we resonate with a lot of things. And in terms of speaking in still in the conversation of attachment, it really something that people don't realize that it, as much as at that moment it feels like, yeah, I'm safe. This person won't leave me, but eventually life happens. It's either through death, or through losing of feelings, because it's something that I realized. And in terms of self love, as someone that keeps on preaching the conversation around self love, it's something that takes time. It's something that you don't stop on doing. It goes back to some video that I saw online, Whereas it spoke actually it's initially it spoke about grief, where it said that as much as grief has these five stages, when you complete these five stages, it's not a once thing, but it is something that you regularly do. In a way, it goes back to the conversation that we're in terms of self-love. You don't just say wake up one day and say, no, I found self-love, I have healed, so now it's time to move on to the next thing. Because in this field of what I've seen of mental well-being, mental health, is the fact that as much as one can just work on themselves in terms of, no, I'm gonna eat healthy, now I'm gonna exercise, now I'm gonna do all these things. At the end of the day, if you don't have self-love, you won't find joy. And and speaking on top of joy, it's something that a lady that was investigating in terms of why do people don't love themselves enough. And one thing that she realized the fact that one thing that as human beings that we are afraid of is joy. Because whenever we come across joy in a way of, now everything life is going smoothly, keep asking yourself this question: why is everything going smoothly? So something is about to happen, something bad is about to happen. That goes with self-love. You don't realize, as much as it might hurt in a way, it might be you, you might suffer that loneliness in a way of realizing that, no, I'm lonely, and keep on having the temptations of just just reaching out to that person that let's say, for example, that you have grown up with, in terms of that person that you were, I would say, attached to. You have those temptations, but in a way, I I I would advise listeners to not reach out, because once you reach out, in a way, you just disrupt the healing journey that you are going through. And I I like, in terms of quoting people in terms of that. I don't know if you are aware of Carl Jung, where he said that there is no healing, but there is letting go. What on your thoughts on that? What is your initial int- thought on letting go?
I haven't really thought about it in that way, but I do agree. I think if you're holding on to an experience or a memory or a past hurt, there's no way to move forward. So I do believe that. But for me, they go hand in hand. You let go of something so you can heal from it, so you can go and be a happy person. So that's kind of how I see it.
Mm. And as I mentioned, that I would like to get into conversation of nutrition and mental health. And in what at what point that you said that you, on your book, that you were into a restrictive diet. Tell us about that, in terms of how did it start? How did you get to be introduced to it, and how helpful was it?
I think that we all have learned that the less you eat, the less calories you eat, the smaller your body. And it seems so simple, and it just does not apply to every single human being. We are all created differently. We are all in different size bodies. Our activity level is different from each other. So for us to say every single woman needs to live on 1,200 calories a day, I mean, if I was a professional athlete, I would die, because that's just not enough. And I think that to stop thinking in terms of less is more, or I can only eat certain things, but that's how I grew up. I grew up thinking, no sugar, no this, low calorie this, no fat this. But I didn't realize that my body was not getting the actual vitamins and nutrients that it needed to be its best self. And when I stopped restrictive dieting, which means that you're either not eating an entire food group, or you're not eating enough calories, or you're not eating enough times a day. It could mean so many things. But when I decided I just want to eat food, make me feel good so I can go on throughout my day and be the healthiest version of myself, it is, I mean, I'm still involved in that. I'm still figuring out how that works. But for the most part, I get up in the morning and my very first thought isn't about, oh my God, what can I eat? Or when am I not going to eat? Or I can't eat this. I don't do that anymore. And that for me was such a healing thing, because I, from, all my teens, my 20s, and my 30s, that's all I thought about. That is the only thing that had enough space in my mind to that I, was consumed with on a daily basis. So now I get to think about, what am I going to do with my husband this weekend? What am I going to watch tonight? Where am I going to go with my girlfriend? Like, I have so much more space to think about other things than just myself. And I don't know if your listeners will agree, but when you stop thinking about yourself so much, you've created this healthy habit for yourself. It just, that's the road to happiness.
Mm. And also in terms of the thing, this the initial conversation, it's quite interesting because I was doing a short course in psychotherapy, whereas he had a section on eating disorders. And one thing that I've realized is the fact that some people use eating as some type of coping mechanism through anxiety or depression or even childhood trauma, because sometimes as individuals we don't react the same way as you don't react the same way when it comes to trauma. Trauma is very brutal, I don't lie. And sometimes as I mentioned earlier, that I didn't have, I would say, a way of knowing how to react to things. And when within the community that I come from. So, there's in terms of eating, in terms of actually diet. Let's go into the diet. And there are so many people out there within the in the field of when it comes to mental well-being or physical health, which are influencers. There are so many diets. There are so many diets that influence people when it comes to eating. Would you say that would you say that you follow those same influencers in a way of m- moving you to the direction of no, eat this and you will get the future body that you are seeking within 4 weeks, 6 weeks in terms of that?
I mean, I think a part of me before lived like that for sure. But what I had to relearn was that there are so many foods out there with so many different vitamins and minerals and nutrients that I need to just be optimal, that I brought in my scope, right? I was only eating one or two things all the time. And that was not enough. There's just not enough. So I think that when I learned what foods worked well for my body, the foods that I enjoyed eating, and now the foods that I enjoy cooking, it all kind of came full circle for me. But I think that so many people just, all they want to know is just tell me what to eat. Just tell me what to eat, especially for coming from a professional, as a personal trainer. I got that question a lot. And now my answer is, well, we got to figure out what that is. I can't just tell you, you have to eat, you know, oatmeal, bananas, and cornflakes all day. There's more to your body than that. There's more than just those few things. And I think so many people still believe I have to eat the same thing every single day to stay the smallest I possibly can. And that's just not true.
Mm. And I feel like going back to the thing of influencers or trainers and trainers, I feel like they use what have worked on them to their clients, thinking that they will respond the same way as you've said, that in terms of when it comes to diet, it varies to you, to a certain person, that this diet might work onto you, this diet may not work onto you. When you realize that you needed to let more when it comes to dieting with the restrictive diet, did did any point affect your mental health in a way, the way you thought things?
Absolutely. I mean, there were many meltdowns when I was trying to figure this all out. There was every emotion I can possibly imagine, from frustration to anger to feeling hopeless. It's like, I have done this my whole life. I've gained weight and lost weight my whole life. How come I am still dealing with this? And if it wasn't for the help of this nutritionist at the time, I'm not sure that I would be where I am today, just because she had to teach me so many things about food and how to prepare it and how to eat it. And when something doesn't respond well to your body tells you. And when your body does feel amazing when you put something good into it, it will tell you too. So I had to learn how to listen to my body and understand that food is there to help me, not hurt me. So, I mean, it took me a couple of years, I'm not going to lie to you, to figure out all the foods that worked well for my body, the foods that did not, learning how to cook at 36, 37 years old, because I was born in the 80s. So all I ever had to do was pop something in the microwave.
Mm.
And so, I mean, my whole world opened up in a different way at that time. And so now it's just like I was saying a little earlier, it's just something I have to think about, in the sense of asking my husband, "Hey, do you want salmon, chicken, steak, or something else for dinner tonight?" I don't have to go through that whole thing of like, I don't know what to eat. I mean, just all that craziness. I don't have to do that anymore. But it took some serious focus. It took some serious time to figure all these things out. And I don't think a lot of people want to do that.
And it really goes back when you said that you had to learn to cook in the age of 37, and it goes back to the guest that I had, where she said that she did everything that was there. She followed the rules in terms of eating health. Sometimes when it comes to nutrition, sometimes I feel like we are overdoing it in a way, and the reason why I'm saying this is the fact that I had a guest on my podcast where she said that she exercised, she ate well, she ate healthy, but at the end of the day, she was diagnosed with cancer, stage 4, and it really goes back to that thing of not overdoing things. Because one at some point when we overdo things, we forgot that sometimes we just need to just back off a little bit. And it goes back to the thing of not being too obsessed about these diets. For example, as you said, you need to you were able to relent these things, and I really find it hard in terms of these things of doing diets. And in all honesty, I never got the real picture of why are we going to in terms of diets? Can't you do this organically? And another thing is the fact that sometimes, as much as we tell ourselves that we want to change our lives, we want to change our bodies, we eventually, I would say, relapse in terms of that eating well, that going to the gym every day. And in terms of the conversation around nutrition and mental health, as you mentioned that in terms of you had some breakdowns, how did you overcome those challenges in terms of, as you've said, that you and in terms of learning to cook at the age of 37, and how so? some people will be surprised, and in terms of some people have these big egos that no, I have to relent this thing. So how did you take that in terms of yeah?
So I think that I was mentally, emotionally ready to take this on. And I think that when you've culminated, almost 3 decades of this up and down and the same results and the same results and all, and you finally realize this is not working for me anymore and I have to do something completely different. I believe that we all as human beings get to that point in our lives where big change is possible because we've literally been doing the same thing, expecting different results, and it's just stopped working. And you either realize, okay, I either have to completely do something different or I'm going to stay the same. And it wasn't worth it in every aspect of my life, emotionally, mentally, physically, to stay the same. And that's why it might have seemed like a huge undertaking, but I was ready. I was ready to do it. And again, it wasn't without meltdowns, it wasn't without anger or tears, but I just didn't want to be the same person anymore. I was getting older, I was 40. It just wasn't worth it. And so by learning how to eat, learning how to cook, learning how to take care of my body, learning how to rest my body, learning how to say no, learning all these things, it just when you ask, I believe this more than anything, when you ask the universe to help you, it literally will part a sea to get you what you need. And that's what I felt like happened to me. I just feel like there was no roadblocks. There was nothing stopping me from going on this journey, and I love that.
Mm. And in terms of the hurdles that you face and that having that anger, having that those tears, having those breakdowns, and you actually mentioned gaining and losing weight within those years. So there's this big thing about positivity, and body love in terms of in general. What are some misconceptions that you have come across within your journey of truly loving your body, truly loving yourself, and just going with the process? What are some misconceptions that you came across?
Well, there's many. I think that when people hear body positivity, especially someone who has never struggled with their body,
Mm,
they just don't understand. They assume that means, oh, you're just going to love your body at every size, no matter what that means, no matter what that looks like, no matter. And e- again, I it starts from I love myself enough to take care of my body. And
mm,
what I mean by that, to eat well, to rest. Like people just don't get how many more things go with the size of your body, right? It's your stress level, it's your sleep, it is your food and your exercise, of course, but it's all the things. And until you address all the things, you are never going to feel like yourself. And so people just assume, oh, I can love my body at any size, but not take care of my body.
mm,
And that to me is the total disconnect here. Now, I will say that yes, you do. It's important to love your body at any size. I don't care if that means you're a size 0 or a size 14, whatever. But once you really truly love that body, that's when you want to take care of it. That's when you want to move. You don't
mm.
sit there with, a quart of ice cream and a thing of soda on the couch, never going on a walk or a bike ride saying, I love my body. No, you don't. Because you treat your body as a gift when you love your body.
And I love the fact that you work the work that you are into. It really involves that self love that is we firstly spoke about within the conversation. And I love the way that these mental health, self-love, nutrition that are very interlinking. Something that I feel like other people don't realize that how much they are very important within ourselves. And as a body educator in terms of loving your body, what type of n- how do you help individuals to overcome that negativity within their own body, having that I would say body dysmorphia of not realizing that they, their body is perfect as they are in terms of keeping that positivity. How do you help them overcome it?
Well, interestingly enough, that's really hard for women because they've been so programmed to believe that I'm not worthy unless I'm this big. So I have to tell everybody, you have to go back. You have to go back to the beginning. Because for some women, it was something that was told to them their whole life. Some women, it was something that was said by a stranger one time. And it doesn't matter how we get there, but we're here, right? So unless we go back that moment of where we became so self-conscious of our bodies, we are never going to be able to, I'll use your word, to let go and get past. We're not. So if you don't want to do the work, then I'm sorry, my friend, but you are going to stay kind of stuck where you're at, and you're just going to keep fighting with yourself until you get to that point like I did, where I was so exhausted in every shape, form, capacity, and I just wanted something different for myself.
Mm. And I feel like it goes back to that thing of that's also that's the thing that I've realized in terms of that women can be easily be, I would say, discouraged, and women can be easily, their self-esteem can be easily destroyed by a certain person of saying that in terms of these things that you're not worth it, you you, you are fed, and in terms of that. And I feel like there's this thing that people don't realize, that it also works with men in terms of that. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I know a vlogger here in South Africa, YouTuber, Tato Rampage, that he is a big, I would say, someone that advocate when it comes to positivity in a way, because at once also he came open in terms of how he actually felt when he wasn't that comfortable in his own body, and he had to really learn to love himself in a way of positivity. And also I feel like also I have been in that state of not loving my body at some point, that I felt like that going to the gym will give me that boost of self-esteem. Going to the gym that will make me feel better for myself in terms of that no matter what people say about me now, at least now I'm going to the gym. And I feel like it's something that we need to create more awareness about, of being comfortable within our own bodies. I really, really think that we need to just continue that conversation. I just want to say thank you so much for actually. I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate the knowledge that you've come with, and also this perspective that you shared within our own experiences. Also telling your story, being open about this kind of conversation. It's something that is hard, something that people would are afraid to talk about. And when you do talk about it, you are ridiculed about by the society as a whole. So for that, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for sharing your story and your time.
Free audio post production by alphonic.com.